Because she looks like your missing mother, asked the girlfriend, and the air froze. Michael Thompson felt his blood run cold as he stared at the woman sitting on the sidewalk. His girlfriend Jessica had just asked a question he never expected to hear, and now he had to quickly decide how to react without raising more suspicion. "Mike, did you hear what I asked?" Jessica insisted, gripping his arm tightly. "Why does that woman look so much like your mother?" He tried to mask the tremor in his voice. "I don't know what you're talking about, sweetheart. Let's just go." But Jessica didn't move. Her brown eyes studied his face with an intensity that made him even more nervous. "Michael, I've seen the photos at your father's house. It's her, isn't it? It's your mother." At that moment, the woman on the sidewalk looked up, and Michael felt his world collapse. For a second that seemed eternal. Mother and son locked eyes across the distance that separated them. 15 years vanished in an instant. 15 years of lies, fabricated explanations, and pain buried deep in his chest. "Let's go now," he said, pulling Jessica by the arm more forcefully. "No, Michael," she broke free. "This woman is your mother, isn't she? The one who supposedly has been traveling abroad for 15 years. The homeless woman quickly stood, gathering the few belongings beside her. Even with her graying hair and worn-out clothes, Deborah Thompson's delicate features were unmistakable. The same green eyes as her son, the same face shape, the same way she tilted her head when nervous. Michael's legs felt weak. Every explanation he'd crafted over the years, every lie he'd told himself and others, crumbled in that moment. His mother was right there, just a few feet away, living on the streets of downtown New York. "She's running away," Jessica murmured, watching the woman hurry off. "Why is she running from you?" Without thinking, Michael started running. He left Jessica standing on the sidewalk and chased after his mother, who had already turned the corner. His expensive suit and leather shoes weren't made for sprinting, but he didn't care. He had to reach her. He had to understand. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. "Mom," he shouted, ignoring the curious glances of passers-by. "Mom, wait!" Deborah stopped in the middle of the street. She didn't turn around, but she stopped. Michael could see her shoulders trembling as he approached. "You've grown up well, my son," she said, still facing away. The words hit Michael like a punch to the gut. It was his mother's voice, rougher, wearier, but still the same voice that had comforted him as a child. "Why are you here?" he managed to ask. "Why are you living like this?" Deborah finally turned. Her face was marked by hard years, but her smile was the same as ever. "Because I chose to be here." "What do you mean, chose?" "Dad said you went traveling, that you were seeing the world." "Your father said many things," she interrupted. "Not all of them true." Michael felt tears burning his eyes. 15 years of longing, unanswered questions, sleepless nights, wondering where his mother could be. "You just disappeared. I was only 20. I needed you." "I know," Deborah gently touched her son's face. "And I'm sorry for that. But I couldn't live in that house anymore." "Why? What happened?" Deborah glanced around. They were standing in the middle of a busy street, drawing attention from onlookers. "This isn't the place for this conversation." "Then let's go home. We'll figure this out." "No," she said firmly. "I'm not going back there. Never again." "But Mom..." "Listen, Michael. I know you have many questions and I understand your confusion, but some things are better left in the past." "How can you say that? You're my mother." Deborah sighed deeply. "Yes, I am your mother, and I always will be. But I can't go back to being your father's wife. He still wears his wedding ring, says he's waiting for you to come back." A bitter smile crossed Deborah's face. "Your father is a very convincing man when he wants to be." Michael didn't understand any of it. All these years, Richard Thompson had kept up the story that Deborah was traveling, discovering the world, fulfilling old dreams. He said she sent letters, that she was fine, that she'd return when she was ready. The letters. He said you sent letters. "What letters, Michael?" "The ones you sent about your travels. He showed me a few sometimes." Deborah shook her head. I never sent any letters. Michael's world crumbled a little more. If his mother had never sent letters, then his father had been lying for 15 years. But why? I need to understand what happened, he said. I need the truth. The truth is too heavy, my son. I'm an adult now, I can handle any truth. Deborah studied him silently for a few seconds. Are you sure about that? I am. Then we'll meet tomorrow. Union Square, 3 in the afternoon. But on one condition. You come alone. Mom, alone, Michael. And if you tell your father you saw me, I'll disappear again. This time for good. Before he could respond, Deborah vanished into the crowd. Michael stood frozen on the sidewalk, trying to process everything. When he returned to where he'd left Jessica, she was leaning against a wall, arms crossed, her face etched with worry. Did you talk to her? Michael hesitated. His mother's warning echoed in his mind. It was just a homeless woman who vaguely reminded me of her. Jessica gave him a disbelieving look. Michael, I'm not stupid. I saw how you ran after that woman. And how she reacted when she saw you. Jessica, please don't lie to me, she interrupted. We've been dating for 2 years. I know you better than anyone. That woman is your mother, and you know it. Michael ran a hand through his hair, feeling cornered. It's complicated. Then explain it to me. Tell me the truth. I can't. What do you mean, you can't? I promised her I wouldn't tell anyone. Jessica stared at him in silence for a few seconds. Your mother is living on the streets, Michael. The streets. And you're just going to pretend nothing happened. It's not like that. Then what is it? Explain it to me because I don't understand any of this. Michael knew Jessica had every right to be confused and upset. During their 2 years together, he'd repeated the same story his father told. His mother was traveling the world, discovering new places, fulfilling old dreams. She said she chose to live like this, he finally admitted. Chose? Who chooses to live on the street? I don't know. She said she'd explain everything tomorrow. Jessica took his hand. Michael, whatever reason led your mother to this, you can figure it out together. She needs help. I know, but she made it clear she doesn't want to come home. Then you find another solution. Rent an apartment for her, hire a caregiver if needed. Jessica, you don't understand. She doesn't want help, at least not the kind we're thinking of. The walk back to Michael's apartment was silent. Jessica watched her boyfriend's troubled expression, trying to piece together what had really happened. Michael, meanwhile, felt torn between loyalty to his father and the need to uncover the truth about his mother. 15 years was a long time to keep a lie. But what exactly was the lie? That night, he barely slept. Jessica tried to talk more about the subject, but he shut down, saying only that he needed to process everything alone. Are you meeting her tomorrow? She asked, lying beside him in bed. I am. Can I come with you? She asked me to come alone. Michael, I care about you. And because of that, I care about your family too. Let me help. I don't know if you can help with this. How will you know if you don't give me a chance? Michael turned to look at her. Jessica was the daughter of a traditional family from Long Beach and had met Michael at a business administration graduation party. She was smart, determined, and had a generous heart. During their 2 years of dating, she had proven to be a loyal and understanding partner. Maybe after I talk to her, he finally said. Okay, but promise you'll tell me what you find out. I promise. The next day, Michael arrived at Union Square 15 minutes early. He was nervous, anxious, but also determined to uncover the truth. Deborah showed up promptly at 3. She wore clean clothes, her hair was combed, but she still had the appearance of someone who had lived on the streets for a long time. You came, she said, sitting on the bench beside her son. Of course I came. I need to understand what happened. Deborah stayed silent for a few minutes, watching the people passing through the square. Did your father tell you I discovered his affair? No. He always said you were traveling. And you believed that all these years? Michael hesitated. At first, yes. But as I grew up, I started to think it was strange. A mother who loves her son doesn't stay away for 15 years without at least trying to see him. You're right. And I did try. What do you mean? I've been back in New York for 2 years. Since then, I've been keeping an eye on your life from a distance. Michael felt a chill. You've been watching me. Not watching. Just making sure you were okay. I saw when you graduated from college. I saw when you started working at your father's firm. I saw when you met Jessica. How do you know her name? Deborah smiled sadly. My son, no matter what life I've chosen, you're still the most important thing in the world to me. Then why didn't you reach out sooner? Because I couldn't risk your father finding out where I was. But why? What did he do that was so terrible? Deborah took a deep breath. Your father has another family, Michael. The words hit Michael like a bolt of lightning. He felt the world spinning around him. What do you mean, another family? A wife and 2 children in Boston for over 20 years. Michael was speechless. For several minutes, he just watched the movement in the square, trying to process the information. Does that mean I have siblings? Half-siblings, yes. An 18-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl. And you found out 15 years ago? I discovered it by accident. I found documents in his office. Birth certificates, photos, love letters, a whole hidden life he'd been keeping. Michael felt sick. And when you confronted him? He didn't deny it. In fact, he said it had always been that way, even before we married. That I always knew he had other loves in his life. But that's not true, is it? Of course not. I never knew a thing. I was completely deceived. Michael began to understand why his mother had left. Discovering a betrayal of that magnitude, a life built on lies, must have been devastating. But why didn't you take me with you? Because you were 20, in college, with a whole life ahead of you, and because I needed to disappear completely. Disappear why? Deborah hesitated. Because your father threatened me. Threatened how? He said if I told anyone the truth, including you, he'd make sure I lost everything, that he'd destroy me financially and socially. Michael felt the anger rising in his chest. And you believed him? Mike, your father is a very powerful man. He has connections in every important place in this city. If he wanted to destroy me, he could do it easily. So you chose to live on the streets rather than face him? It wasn't an easy choice, but yes, I preferred my freedom over living a life built on lies. Michael stood up from the bench, agitated. Mom, this is crazy. You gave up everything because of threats. I didn't give up everything. I gave up material things, but I got my dignity back. Your dignity. You're living on the streets. And yet I sleep better than I ever did in that mansion. Michael couldn't understand his mother's logic. How could anyone prefer life on the streets over comfort and safety? Mom, you can come back now. I'm an adult. I can protect you. Together we can stand up to Dad. It's not that simple. Why not? Deborah stood up as well. Because there are other things you still don't know. What other things? Things about how your father built the family fortune. A chill ran through Michael's stomach. What do you mean? Do you really want to know the whole truth? Because once I tell you, there's no going back. Michael hesitated for a moment. Part of him wanted to ignore it all, go home, and pretend nothing had happened. But the bigger part, the part that couldn't live with lies anymore, spoke louder. I want to know everything. Deborah looked around as if afraid someone might hear. Not here. It's too dangerous. Where then? Do you know the Hope Shelter in Greenwich Village? No. That's where I stay sometimes. Meet me there tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. And Mike? Yes? Don't tell your father any of this? Not yet. Okay. And if he asks where you were today? I'll say I was handling some personal matters. Deborah nodded and walked away, leaving Michael alone in the square with more questions than answers. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. When Michael got home, he found Jessica in the kitchen, preparing dinner. How did it go? She asked without turning around. Complicated. Did you find out why she's living like that? Michael poured himself a glass of water, buying time to think about what he could say. She told me she chose this life because she didn't want to live with lies anymore. Jessica stopped stirring the food and turned to look at him. What kind of lies? Problems in her marriage with my dad. What kind of problems? Michael knew Jessica wouldn't give up easily. She was persistent when she wanted answers. Infidelity. Your father cheated on your mother? It's complicated. Jessica turned off the stove and moved closer to him. Mike, you've been speaking in half-truths since yesterday. Either you tell me everything, or I'll have to draw my own conclusions. What conclusions? That you're hiding something serious, and if you're hiding it, maybe it's because you're planning something dangerous. Michael looked at her, surprised. Dangerous? Like what? I don't know. Confronting your father violently, doing something reckless. Jessica, I would never do something like that. Then tell me the whole truth. Michael sighed. He knew he couldn't keep Jessica in the dark for long. My father has another family. Jessica's mouth fell open, but she said nothing for a few seconds. Another family? What do you mean? A wife and 2 kids in Boston for over 20 years. My God, did your mother find out? 15 years ago. Is that why she left? Yes, and my father threatened her to keep her from telling the truth. Jessica sat down in a chair, absorbing the information. Mike, this is really serious. I know. Are you going to confront your father? I don't know yet. My mother said there are other things I need to know first. What other things? I don't know, I'll find out tomorrow. Jessica took his hand. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together, okay? I don't know if you should get involved in this. I'm already involved. The moment I pointed at that woman on the street, I got involved. Michael pulled her into a hug. He felt grateful to have someone like Jessica by his side. I love you, he said. I love you too. And that's why I won't let you face this alone. The next day, Michael struggled to focus at work. The firm Thompson & Associates occupied 3 floors of an office building on Fifth Avenue, and Michael had started working there 2 years earlier after graduating with a degree in business administration. He had always admired his father's success. Richard Thompson had built an empire from scratch, starting with a small hardware store on the outskirts and expanding it into one of the largest suppliers of construction materials in New York. Now, looking around the luxurious office, Michael wondered how much of that success had been earned honestly. Was it all above board? Or was there something more behind his mother's words? Michael? Richard's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. Hi, Dad. Everything all right? You seem worried. Just tired. Richard stepped closer and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. Problems with Jessica? No, everything's fine with her. Good, she's a special girl. Reminds me a lot of your mother when she was young. Michael's stomach twisted. How could his father speak about his mother so casually, knowing where she really was? Dad, have you gotten any letters from Mom recently? Richard hesitated for a barely noticeable second. Not in a few weeks. Why? Just curious. You know how she is. When she's traveling, sometimes she goes weeks without checking in. Michael wanted to scream. He wanted to confront his father right then, demand the truth. But he remembered his mother's warning about the danger of telling Richard everything. I think I'll leave early today, he said. Something wrong? No, I just need to rest. Of course. Take the chance to have dinner with Jessica. It's been a while since you two came over. Michael almost laughed at the irony. His father talking about family dinners while keeping 2 separate families for decades. At 7 that evening, Michael arrived at Hope Shelter. It was an old but well-kept building on a quiet street in Greenwich Village. He asked for his mother at the front desk and was directed to wait in a sitting area. Deborah appeared a few minutes later, dressed in simple but clean clothes. She seemed more relaxed than in their previous meetings. Thank you for coming, she said, sitting in an armchair across from him. I need to understand everything, Mom. And you will. But first, I want you to know that what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see your father. I'm ready for that. Deborah took a deep breath. Your father didn't build his company just through honest work. What do you mean? He got involved with dangerous people early in his career. Dishonest businessmen, corrupt politicians, construction companies that used subpar materials. Michael felt a knot in his stomach. Do you have proof? I have documents I found before I left home. Fake contracts, receipts for illegal payments, incriminating correspondence. Where are those documents now? Somewhere safe. Why didn't you use them to expose him? Because it would have destroyed you too. The company you're now part of would be investigated, possibly shut down. Hundreds of employees would lose their jobs. Michael began to understand his mother's dilemma. So you chose to sacrifice yourself? I chose to walk away. And all these years, I've been trying to find a way to fix this without hurting innocent people. Did you come up with anything? Deborah stood and walked to the window. Your father is planning something big, Michael. How do you know? Because I've been keeping track of the company's movements, and because I recently received some troubling information. What information? He's negotiating the sale of the company to a foreign group. Michael fell silent. His father had never mentioned anything about selling the company. Are you sure? Absolutely. And if this sale goes through, he'll disappear with the money, leaving all the legal problems for whoever buys the company. Including me? Including you. Michael felt his legs go weak. If what his mother was saying was true, he was being used as a pawn in a much larger scheme. What do you think I should do? I don't know yet, but I do know you need to act fast. Why? Because the sale is scheduled for next week. Michael buried his face in his hands. In a week, his entire life could change drastically. Mom, can you show me the evidence you have? I can, but on one condition. What? You promise you won't do anything rash? No confronting your father before we have a plan. Fine. Deborah walked to a small cabinet in the corner of the room and pulled out a folder of documents. It's all here. Fraudulent contracts, bribe receipts, communications with businessmen under investigation for corruption. Michael flipped through the documents, his stomach turning with each page. He recognized his father's signature on several of them. How did you get these? Your father was always careless with important papers. He left everything in the Home Office. And why did you keep them all these years? Because I knew they'd be necessary someday. Michael closed the folder, feeling sick. If this information got out, your father would be arrested, the company would be shut down, and you'd probably be investigated too. Even though I didn't know anything? Unfortunately, yes. You've been a partner in the company for 2 years. Michael began to understand why his mother had chosen silence. It wasn't cowardice, it was protection. But now things have changed, Deborah continued. With the sale of the company, your father will leave you alone to face the consequences. Unless I do something first. Exactly. What do you suggest? Deborah sat back down. We need to find a way to stop the sale without exposing the past crimes. And how would we do that? I'm still thinking. But I know we can't do it alone. Who are you thinking of asking for help? Jessica. Michael looked at her in surprise. Why her? Because she's outside the family. She can see the situation more clearly, and because I've noticed she's very smart and determined. You know her? Deborah smiled. I told you I've been keeping an eye on your life from afar. That includes knowing who's important to you. Michael wasn't sure if he felt invaded or protected. Do you think we can trust her? I think she genuinely cares about you, and people who care are the ones we can trust in tough times. Michael thought for a few minutes. Okay, I'll tell her everything. And then? Then we'll figure out a way out of this without destroying our family in the process. Deborah stepped closer and hugged her son. I'm so sorry about all this, Michael. I'm sorry I kept you in the dark for so long. You were trying to protect me. I was. But now, you need to know the truth, so you can protect yourself. When Michael got home that night, he found Jessica watching TV in the living room. How did the meeting go? She asked, turning off the TV. Much worse than I imagined. Jessica stood and walked over to him. Tell me. Michael told her everything. The discovery about his father's shady dealings, the documents his mother had kept, the company sale scheduled for next week. When he finished, Jessica was silent for a few moments. "Michael, this is really serious. I know. If these accusations are true, you could be arrested along with your father. I know that too. What does your mother suggest you do?" "We're still thinking about it, but she wants your help." "My help? Why?" "Because you can see the situation more objectively." Jessica stood up and began pacing the room. "Let's think logically. Your father is selling the company to get rid of the legal problems. If you stop the sale, the problems will remain, and you'll have to deal with them." "That's true. But if you let the sale go through, your father disappears, and you're left alone to face the consequences." "Also true. So the only way out is to find a third option. Which would be?" Jessica stopped pacing and looked at him. "You need a lawyer, someone who understands corporate and criminal law. But if we hire a lawyer, they'll want to report everything." "Not necessarily. There are leniency agreements, cooperation programs, ways to resolve the situation without completely destroying the company." Michael had never considered that possibility. "Do you know a lawyer like that?" "I do. My cousin graduated from Columbia Law and specializes in corporate law. He's trustworthy." "Do you think he'd agree to help us?" "I'm sure he would. But first, we need to be certain your mother is willing to cooperate." "In what way?" "She'd have to hand over the documents she has and tell everything she knows." Michael hesitated. He knew it would be a big step for his mother. "I'll talk to her tomorrow." "And Michael?" "Yes. No matter what happens, I'll be with you. Even if it means trouble for you too." Even then. The next day, Michael went to see his mother again at the shelter. "Jessica suggests we hire a lawyer," he said. "I've thought about it, but it's risky. She knows someone trustworthy, someone who can help us find a solution without exposing everything." Deborah thought for a moment. "If we hire a lawyer, there's no going back. Once the information is out of our control, anything could happen. Mom, if we do nothing, my father will leave me in a terrible situation." "I know. And you'll keep living on the streets forever?" "I don't know." Michael took his mother's hands. "Mom, I've grown up. I can face the consequences of my choices, but I need the chance to make those choices." Deborah looked into his eyes for a long time. "All right, let's talk to this lawyer. Are you sure?" "I am, but on one condition." "What?" "If things spiral out of control, I disappear again, and this time you don't come looking for me." "Mom, promise me." Michael hesitated but agreed. "I promise." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now continuing. The next day, Michael, Jessica, and Deborah met at the office of Andrew Parker, Jessica's cousin and a corporate law specialist. Andrew was a serious but approachable man in his mid-30s. He listened to their story in silence, taking notes. "You're in a very complicated situation," he said finally, "but not an impossible one to resolve." "What do you suggest?" Michael asked. "First, I need to review all the documents you have," he said, looking at Deborah. "And then? Then we'll assess the severity of the crimes and determine the best strategy. There are legal options that can minimize the damage." "Like what?" Deborah asked. "Leniency agreements, plea bargains, restitution. These can significantly reduce penalties." "What about Michael?" Jessica asked. "If we can prove he had no knowledge of the crimes, he could be exempt from liability." Michael felt a momentary relief. "And my father?" "Your father will likely face criminal and civil charges, but depending on how he cooperates, the sentences could be reduced." "And the company?" "The company can be preserved if we reach a proper agreement, maybe with a change in management and a commitment to restitution." Deborah leaned forward. "Doctor, do you understand that if this information leaks before the right time, people could get hurt?" "I understand perfectly. That's why I suggest we handle the entire process discreetly, through the proper channels. And if my ex-husband finds out what we're doing, we'll take all necessary precautions. But you need to understand that at some point he will know." "I know. I just want to make sure we do this the right way." Nathan nodded. I'll review all the documents over the weekend. By Monday, we'll have a clear strategy. And until then? Michael asked. Until then, act normally. Don't change anything about your routine. Over the weekend, Michael struggled to act naturally. Every conversation with his father felt loaded with unspoken lies. On Saturday, Richard suggested they have dinner together. It's been a while since we really talked, he said. During dinner, Michael watched his father with new eyes. He still loved him, but now he knew the man in front of him had built a life on lies and betrayal. Michael, you've been acting strange lately, Richard remarked. Strange how? Distant, worried. Any problems at work? No, everything's fine. And with Jessica, everything's fine there too. Richard studied his son's face. You know you can talk to me about anything, right? Michael almost laughed at the irony. His father talking about openness while keeping enormous secrets. I know, Dad. Good, because family is the most important thing we have. It is, Michael agreed, thinking of his mother living in the shelter. Actually, I have good news to share. Michael tensed. What news? I'm negotiating a major contract. If it goes through, it'll be the biggest deal in our history. What kind of contract? An international partnership. It could mean expansion into other countries. Michael knew his father was lying. It wasn't a partnership, it was a sale. And it wasn't expansion, it was an escape. Sounds interesting, he said, keeping his voice neutral. Very interesting. And you'll play an important role in all of it. How so? As my heir, you'll be part of every major decision from now on. Michael felt sick. His father was trying to drag him deeper into the business before disappearing. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. Have you ever regretted a decision you've made? Richard hesitated for a second. Why do you ask? Just curious. Well, in business, sometimes we have to make tough calls. Not all of them are decisions we're proud of, but they're necessary for success. And in your personal life? What do you mean? Do you regret anything in your personal life? Richard was silent for a few moments. I miss your mother very much, he finally said. Do you really? Of course. Why would you ask that? Michael wanted to shout, to confront his father right then. But he remembered Nathan's instructions. I was just thinking about her today. I think about her every day too. On Monday, Michael, Jessica, and Deborah met again with Nathan. I've reviewed all the documents, the lawyer said. The situation is serious, but we have options. What are they? Deborah asked. First, the crimes have varying statutes of limitations. Some have expired, others haven't. And the ones that haven't are the most serious: bid rigging, tax evasion, cartel formation. Michael's stomach tightened. What does that mean in practice? It means your father could face 5 to 12 years in prison. And me? You could be cleared if we cooperate properly with the authorities. How? By proving you had no knowledge of the crimes and are willing to make amends. Deborah leaned forward. And how would we prove that? Michael would have to formally report his father's activities and hand over all the documents. So, he'd have to betray his own father, said Jessica. It's not betrayal when the goal is justice, Nathan replied. Michael stayed silent, absorbing the implications. And if I don't do it? If you don't, and the company sale goes through, within months you'll be arrested alongside your father when the crimes come to light. What do you mean, come to light? Michael, when a company is sold, it undergoes a full audit. All these crimes will show up in the reports. And then? Then you'll be considered an accomplice by omission. Michael realized there was no way out anymore. What do I need to do? First, we'll stop the sale of the company. Then we'll prepare a leniency agreement. How do we stop the sale? You're a partner in the company. You have veto power over major decisions. But if I use that power, my father will get suspicious. We'll create a technical justification, some documentation issue that needs resolving before the sale. Jessica spoke up. And after we stop the sale? Then Michael will confront his father and give him the chance to cooperate voluntarily. And if he refuses, then we'll file the formal report. Deborah shook her head. Richard would never cooperate willingly. He'd rather destroy everything than admit his mistakes. "Then we'll prepare to file the report," Nathan said. "When?" Michael asked. "Next week, before the sale is finalized." Michael felt like he was about to step onto a roller coaster with no way back. "All right, let's do it." The next day, Michael arrived early at the office. He needed to find the company sale documents before his father showed up. In Richard's drawer, he found the sales contract. It was even more shocking than he'd imagined. The company was being sold for far less than it's worth, to a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. "Looking for something?" Richard's voice made him jump. Michael turned around, contract in hand. "Dad, we need to talk." "About what?" "About this." Michael showed him the contract. Richard's expression changed instantly. "Where did you find that?" "In your drawer." "Dad, are you selling our company?" "It's complicated, Michael." "Complicated how? Were you planning to leave me out of this decision?" Richard closed the office door. "Sit down. I'll explain everything." Michael sat but kept hold of the contract. "I'm listening." "The company is facing financial troubles you don't know about." "What troubles? Old debts, tax issues, problems that have been piling up for years." Michael knew his father was lying, but let him continue. "And the solution is to sell the company? It's the only way to avoid bankruptcy." "Dad, according to this contract, the company's being sold for a laughable amount. It's the best deal we could negotiate. To a company I'm not even sure exists." Richard stood up, visibly nervous. "Michael, you don't understand the complexities of international business." "Then explain it to me." "It's not that simple." "Dad, if there are problems with the company, I have a right to know. I've been a partner for 2 years. You're a junior partner. Strategic decisions are mine to make." Michael stood as well. "Not when they involve selling the entire company." "Michael, you're questioning decisions I made to protect our family." "Protect how? By selling our company for a joke of a price?" Richard stared at him silently for a few seconds. "Is there something you're not telling me?" he finally asked. "What do you mean?" "You've been acting strange for days, and now you show up here questioning business decisions as if you knew something I don't." Michael felt his heart race. His father was getting suspicious. "I'm just worried about our future." "Our future? Or did you discover something about our past?" The question hit Michael like a punch. His father knew he was hiding something. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Michael, I've known you since the day you were born. I can tell when you're lying." "Dad, you found your mother." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Michael stayed silent, unsure how to react. "I asked if you found your mother," Richard repeated. "I did," Michael finally said. Richard closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "I knew this would happen someday." "You knew where she was?" "I had my suspicions. I have people who inform me about unusual movements in the city." Anger rose in Michael's chest. "And you did nothing?" "I did. I kept my distance, like she wanted." "Like she wanted? Dad, she's living on the streets." "Because she chose to live on the streets." "Because you threatened her." Richard stepped closer to his son. "What exactly did she tell you?" "The truth, about your other family, about the shady business dealings." "And you believed her?" "I saw the proof." Richard stopped in the middle of the room. "What proof?" "The documents she kept before leaving home." "She still has those documents?" "She does." Richard rubbed his face. "Michael, you don't understand the situation." "Then explain it to me." "Your mother is angry. Angry people do destructive things." "She's not angry. She's disappointed." "And what's the difference?" "The difference is she wants to protect our family, not destroy it." "Protect?" "She walked out and abandoned us. She left because she found out you had another family for 20 years. Richard fell silent. "So what?" he finally said. Michael couldn't believe his father's coldness. "What do you mean, so what?" "Michael, successful men sometimes have complicated lives." "Complicated?" "Dad, you have 2 kids I don't even know." "And do you want to meet them?" The question caught Michael off guard. "I don't know. Because if you do, I can arrange it." Michael couldn't tell if his father was being sincere or sarcastic. Dad, this isn't normal. What's normal, Michael? Living a mediocre life, having limited resources, not being able to give your family the best. Having just one family would have been a good start. Richard turned to the window. I love you all. I love you, I loved your mother, I love Samantha and the boys. Samantha, my other wife. Michael sat back down, feeling sick. How can you talk about this so casually? Because it's my life, Michael, and so far it's worked out for everyone. Worked out? My mother is living on the streets. Your mother is on the streets because she chose to be. I offered her anything she wanted to settle things. Except to stop lying. Richard turned to face his son. Michael, do you want the full truth? I do. The truth is, I built this entire empire for all of you. For you, for your mother, for Samantha, for Nathan and Emily. Nathan and Emily are my siblings. Half-siblings, yes. And they know about me? They do. And they want to meet you. Michael didn't know how to process that. And how did you build this empire, Dad? With hard work, dedication, and some questionable decisions. Questionable like what? Michael, in business, sometimes we have to make deals that aren't entirely conventional. Dad, stop dancing around it. Did you commit crimes or not? Richard was silent for a long time. I did, he finally said. What kind of crimes? Fraud, tax evasion, bribery, whatever it took to grow fast. Michael felt his world collapse at the direct confession. And now? Now I'm trying to walk away without destroying our family in the process. Selling the company and moving to another country. What about me? You're coming with us. Where to? Switzerland or Canada, countries where we can start over. Michael couldn't believe what he was hearing. Dad, are you suggesting we flee the country? I'm suggesting we protect our family. What about the company, the employees? They'll be part of the sale agreement, and the crimes you committed. They'll stay in the past. Michael stood up, agitated. Dad, this is insane. It's realism, Michael. What if I don't want to go? Richard looked at him seriously. Then you'll stay here to face the consequences of the crimes I committed. But I didn't commit any crimes. You've been a partner in the company for 2 years. In the eyes of the law, you're equally responsible. Michael felt a chill in his stomach. It was exactly what Andrew had explained. Unless, Richard continued. Unless what? Unless you cooperate with the authorities against me. Michael fell silent. That's what your mother wants you to do, isn't it? Richard asked. She wants the truth to come out. And you, what do you want? Michael realized he had reached the moment of choosing between his father and his mother, between the comfort of lies and the difficulty of truth. I want a real family, he finally said. Then come abroad with us. We'll all start over together, including my mother, if she wants to. She'll never agree. Then we have a problem. Michael studied his father's face, searching for some trace of the man he had admired his whole life. Dad, you can stop all this now. We can find a legal way to resolve things. How? By making deals, compensating damages, cooperating with the authorities. And in exchange, how much time do I spend in prison? I don't know, but at least our family stays together. Together in misery. Better than divided in a life built on lies. Richard walked to the desk and took the contract from his son's hands. Michael, you have 24 hours to decide. Decide what? Whether you come with us or stay here. And if I stay, then you'll face all the consequences of your actions. Michael understood this was a veiled threat. My actions? Dad, I didn't commit any crimes. You signed company documents, attended meetings, approved contracts, because I trusted you. But the law won't see it that way. Michael realized his father was trying to manipulate him. Dad, do you really think I'd abandon my life here to run away with you? I think you're smart enough to know the best option. The best option is facing the truth. The truth will destroy you, Michael. Lies are what have destroyed me so far. Richard locked the contract in the drawer. 24 hours, he repeated. After that, I can't protect you anymore." Michael left the office shaken. He needed to talk to Jessica and his mother immediately. He found Jessica at home working on her laptop. "How did the talk with your father go?" she asked. "Terrible. He confessed everything." "Confessed the crimes?" "Confessed, and then offered me a way to flee the country with him." Jessica closed her laptop. "Flee where?" "Switzerland or Canada." "And you?" "I said I want a real family." What was his reaction? "He gave me 24 hours to decide." "Decide what?" "Whether I run with him or stay to face the consequences." Jessica stood and walked to him. "Michael, you can't run." "I know. And you can't let your father run either." "How do I stop him?" "Talk to Nathan. He'll know what to do." Michael grabbed his phone and called the lawyer. "Nathan, it's Michael. We need to meet urgently." An hour later, Michael, Jessica, and Deborah were back in Nathan's office. "The situation has completely changed," Michael said, recounting the conversation with his father. "He confessed to the crimes?" asked Nathan. "He confessed and even threatened to take me down with him if I didn't run away with him." "That's coercion." "What can we do?" "Now we have to act fast. If he has 24 hours to leave the country, we need to stop him." "How?" "By filing the report today." Deborah spoke up. "Doctor, if we file the report today, won't Michael risk being arrested too?" "Not if he cooperates voluntarily. The fact that he's here, handing over the information, is proof enough he's not an accomplice." Michael took a deep breath. "Then let's file the report." "Are you sure?" asked Nathan. "I am. I can't let my father run away and leave me to deal with the mess he created." Nathan nodded. "All right, I'll prepare all the documents. Tomorrow morning, we'll file the formal complaint. And tonight, you act normal. Don't do anything that might raise suspicions." When Michael got home that night, he found an envelope under the door. Inside was a plane ticket to Zurich in his name for the 8 a.m. flight the next day. Along with the ticket was a note from his father. "Last chance. If you love me, be at the airport at 6 in the morning. If you're not there, I'll understand your decision." Michael showed the ticket to Jessica. "He's really trying to take you with him," she said. "But I'm not going." "Are you sure?" Michael looked at the ticket. First class, destination Switzerland, a new life in another country. Far from the problems, far from the consequences. "I'm tempted," he admitted. "It's natural. Running is easier than facing it. But if I run, I'll never be able to look at myself in the mirror again. And your mother will keep living on the streets. And hundreds of people harmed by my father's crimes will never get justice." Jessica took the ticket from his hands and tore it up. "There, problem solved." Michael hugged her. "Thank you." "For what?" "For helping me do the right thing." The next morning at 6, Michael was in Nathan's office, not at the airport. "Ready?" asked the lawyer. "Ready." By 8, they were at the district attorney's office, formally filing the complaint against Richard Thompson and his company. By 10, the news was in the papers. Heir reports own father for corporate crimes. By noon, Richard Thompson was arrested at JFK, trying to board a flight to Zurich. At 2 in the afternoon, Michael was in Jessica's apartment, watching the news on TV. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Relieved," he said, "and sad at the same time. That's normal. You did the right thing, but you lost your father in the process." "I didn't lose my father. I found out who he really was." The phone rang. It was Deborah. "Michael, I saw the news." "Mom, are you okay?" "I am. And you?" "I'm okay too. Do you want to meet up?" "I do." "Then come to the shelter. I have a proposal for you." An hour later, Michael and Jessica were at the shelter talking with Deborah. "First, I want to say I'm proud of you," she said. "Thank you. Second, I have a proposal." "What proposal?" "Let's rebuild the company. The right way this time." Michael looked at her in surprise. "What do you mean?" "With the money your father stole over the years, we can compensate the people he hurt and still keep the company running." "But I don't know the first thing about running a business honestly." "Then we'll learn together." "Together?" "I've always understood business, Michael. I just never had the chance to show it. And what would Jessica think about working with us? Deborah asked. Jessica was surprised. Me? You. We need someone we trust to handle the legal side. But I'm not a lawyer. But you could become one. In the meantime, you could work with Nathan. Michael looked at the two most important women in his life. Are you saying we should start over from scratch? We're proposing that we start off on the right foot, Deborah replied. What about the company? The company will be called Thompson & Sons. You, me, and maybe your siblings in the future. My siblings? Nathan and Emily. They aren't to blame for our father's mistakes. Michael hadn't thought of that. Do you think they'd want to meet us? There's only one way to find out. 2 months later, Michael was at a restaurant in downtown New York, waiting to meet his half-siblings. Nathan arrived first, an 18-year-old, shy but friendly. Emily, 15, was more outgoing and curious. So you're our famous brother, she said, sitting down. Famous isn't quite the word I'd use, Michael replied. How does our father, Richard, feel in prison? Nathan asked. I don't know, I haven't spoken to him. My mom said you two were really close, Emily said. We were, but that was before I found out the truth. And now? Now I'm trying to fix the mistakes he made. Over dinner, the three discovered they had a lot in common. They'd all grown up admiring Richard, all recently learned about his dishonesty, and all were struggling with the fallout. Would you like to meet our mother? Michael asked. We would, Nathan answered. She's living in a small house now. She's been off the streets for a month. How is she? Emily asked. Better. She's working on a social project for the homeless. And you? I'm learning to run a business honestly. It's harder than I thought. Harder how? The profits are smaller, the decisions are more complicated, but I sleep better at night. At the end of dinner, Nathan asked an unexpected question. Michael, do you forgive us? Forgive you for what? For existing, for being proof of our father's betrayal of your mother. Michael was silent for a few seconds. You aren't to blame for the choices he made, and now we're family, even if it's a complicated one. A complicated family can be better than a fake one, Emily said. 6 months later, Thompson & Sons was up and running with a new mission, smaller than before but fully legal. Deborah had taken over as president, Michael handled operations, and Jessica, who'd decided to study law, helped with legal matters. Nathan and Emily visited New York every other week, joining the family meetings at the house Michael had rented for his mother. Richard was serving an 8-year sentence, but had agreed to cooperate with authorities to reduce his time. Occasionally, he sent Michael letters, asking for forgiveness and expressing pride in the changes his son had made. Michael still wasn't ready to fully forgive his father, but he no longer felt anger, just sadness for the life that could have been different. One Sunday afternoon, he and Jessica were at the park, watching Deborah play with some children from the social project. Do you regret anything? Jessica asked, waiting so long to find out the truth. And if you could go back, would you do everything differently? Michael thought for a moment. I'd do it all the same, because it was through the pain that we discovered who we really are. And who are we? A real family. Small, complicated, but real. Jessica rested her head on his shoulder. You know what amazes me most about this whole story? What? It all changed because of one simple question. When I pointed to that woman on the street and asked why she looked like your mother. That's true. A question I tried to avoid answering for years. Sometimes the questions we fear the most are the ones we most need to answer. And sometimes the people we think are lost are the ones we most need to find. Deborah approached them. What are you thinking about? About how we got here, replied Michael. And where do we go now, she asked. Forward, always forward. Together? Together. At that moment, Michael realized he had found something he had been searching for his whole life without knowing. A family built on truth, not convenient lies. It wasn't the perfect family he had imagined as a child, but it was real, and that made all the difference. The sun began to set over New York, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Michael looked around and saw his mother smiling genuinely for the first time in years, Jessica planning the future they would build together, and he felt he was finally home. Not in the luxurious house where he grew up, built on lies and appearances, but in a real family, built on difficult choices and unconditional love. He took Jessica's hand in one of his and Deborah's in the other. "Thank you," he said to both of them. "For what?" they asked almost in unison. "For helping me find my way home." As they walked together toward the car, Michael knew this was just the beginning of the life he had always wanted to live, a life based on truth, even when the truth was hard to accept. A few weeks later, on a sunny Saturday morning, Michael woke to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. He went downstairs and found Jessica, Deborah, Nathan, and Emily preparing breakfast together. "What a nice surprise," he said, hugging his half-siblings. "We decided to drop by unannounced," Emily explained. "And we brought some news," Nathan added. "What news?" "Our mother wants to meet you." Michael looked at Deborah, who smiled. "Samantha and I have already spoken on the phone," his mother said. "She's also trying to recover from all those years of lies. And how is she handling my father's arrest?" "Better than we expected," Nathan replied. "She said deep down, she always knew something was wrong but chose not to look into it. And now?" "Now she wants to meet Richard's real family," Emily said. Over breakfast, the five of them talked about how this meeting would go. It would be awkward, certainly, but also necessary for them to move forward as a united family. "Do you think it's possible?" Michael asked. "Two families deceived by the same man. Can they really get along?" "I think it's possible," Deborah answered. "We were all victims of the same lies. That gives us something in common. And besides," Jessica added, "you have each other, siblings who care about one another." "Half-siblings," Nathan corrected. "Siblings," Michael insisted. "What matters isn't how we got here, but what we do from now on." 2 weeks later, all the families gathered at Deborah's house. Samantha was an elegant woman in her 50s, with graying hair and tired eyes, but a genuine smile. The meeting started tense, but gradually became more natural. Samantha and Deborah discovered they had very similar stories. Both had been deceived by the same man, both had raised their children mostly alone, and both had sacrificed their own aspirations for their families. "Richard always said he was traveling for work," Samantha shared. "Sometimes he'd be gone for weeks." "He told me the same thing," Deborah replied, "that he was expanding the business to other cities. And we believed because we wanted to believe," Samantha said. "Sometimes it's easier to live in a comfortable lie than face a painful truth," Deborah agreed. Michael watched the conversation between the two women and felt a mix of sadness and admiration. Sadness for the lives they all could have had if his father had been honest from the start. Admiration for the strength they showed to rebuild their lives after so long. "So now?" asked Emily. "What do we do with all this story?" "Now we live the truth," replied Deborah. "No lies, no secrets, no pretenses." "Even if it's harder?" asked Nathan. "Especially because it's harder," answered Michael. In the following months, the extended family got to know each other better. Samantha began visiting New York regularly, sometimes staying at Deborah's house, sometimes at the apartment Michael and Jessica had rented. The kids, because Nathan and Emily were still considered kids by the family, adapted well to the new dynamic. Nathan was thinking about going to college in New York to stay closer to his siblings. Emily talked about spending vacations in the city. The company, Thompson & Sons, continued growing slowly but steadily. Deborah had proven to be a natural-born manager with innovative ideas and impeccable work ethics. Michael discovered day after day that he had much of his mother in him: the honesty, the determination, the ability to reinvent himself, traits that had been dormant during the years he tried to imitate his father. Jessica adapted quickly to the new family reality. At first, she had worried about intruding on a delicate situation, but she soon realized she was seen as an integral part of the family. "You know what I find most interesting?" she commented one evening as they all had dinner together. "What?" asked Michael. "How you all managed to turn a tragedy into an opportunity." "How so?" "The discovery about your father's lies could have destroyed the whole family, but you used it to grow closer." Deborah smiled. "Maybe because we realized family isn't about DNA or last names. It's about choosing to be together, even when it's hard." And about forgiving, added Samantha. Have you forgiven my father? Asked Michael. We're trying, Deborah replied. It's not easy, but it's necessary, for our own peace of mind. And you? Samantha asked, looking at the kids. Can you forgive your father? Nathan and Emily exchanged glances. I think so, said Emily. I understand he made terrible mistakes, but he's still our father. And I've learned I can love someone without approving of their actions, Nathan added. Michael nodded. That's how I feel too. I love my father, but I can't turn a blind eye to what he did. A year after the discovery on the street, Michael was walking through downtown New York again. But this time he wasn't alone. Jessica was by his side, and they were pushing a wheelchair where an elderly lady sat, one who participated in Deborah's social project. Mrs. Jenkins, are you sure you want to go all the way there? Asked Jessica. I am, dear. I need to thank Mrs. Deborah in person. Mrs. Jenkins was one of the first people helped by the project Deborah had created with the money recovered from Richard's crimes, a program offering temporary housing, medical assistance and job placement for the homeless. There she is, said Michael, pointing to Deborah, who was talking to a group of volunteers in the square. When Deborah saw them approaching, her face lit up. Mrs. Jenkins, how are you? Very well, Mrs. Deborah. Thanks to you and this young man here, she said, gesturing to Michael. Michael just carried on what I started, Deborah replied. You gave me back my dignity, said Mrs. Jenkins, tears in her eyes. That's why I came today. You don't need to thank us. Oh, but I do. And I want to say one more thing. What? You have a beautiful family. And they have a wonderful mother. Deborah hugged the woman, also moved. Thank you, Mrs. Jenkins. You're part of our family now, too. As he watched the scene, Michael reflected on how much his life had changed in just 1 year. He had lost the idealized image of his father, but gained a real family. He had lost the financial security of criminal activities, but gained the peace of living honestly. What are you thinking about? Jessica asked, taking his hand, about how a simple question can change an entire life. Are you talking about the question I asked that day? Exactly. Why does she look so much like your mother? Do you regret that I asked it? Michael looked around. He saw his mother working with people who needed help. He saw Mrs. Jenkins smiling for the first time in years. He saw Jessica by his side, ready to face any hardship with him. Never, he answered. It was the most important question of my life. Why? Because it forced me to choose between living a comfortable lie or facing a difficult truth. And which was the better choice? The truth. Always the truth. In that moment, Michael realized he had learned life's most important lesson. True happiness doesn't come from what we have, but from who we are. And that family isn't about perfection. It's about unconditional love and conscious choices. He looked at Deborah, who was helping another homeless person fill out a registration form, and felt immense pride. That woman had given up everything to keep her integrity. And now, she was using her freedom to help others regain their dignity. Mom, he called. Deborah turned. Yes? I love you. I love you too, son. And thank you. For what? For teaching me that true value isn't measured in money. Deborah smiled and went back to work. Michael and Jessica stayed a few more minutes, watching the movement in the square, seeing people who had lost everything slowly regaining hope. Ready to go home? Jessica asked. Ready. As they walked back to the car, Michael thought about how he would define home now. It was no longer the luxurious mansion where he'd grown up. Home was where his family was together, where they could be themselves without masks or pretenses. Home was the dinner table where they all gathered on Sundays, sharing stories and planning the future. It was the office where they worked together toward a common goal. It was the social project where his mother found purpose and fulfillment. Home was wherever they were united by truth, not divided by lies. That night, as had been the case for months now, Michael fell asleep in peace. There were no secrets hidden in the closet, no whispered conversations in corners, no lies to uphold. There was just a family that had chosen to stay together, despite all the hardships. A family that had learned true love isn't afraid of the truth. And as New York continued its nightlife outside, the Thompson family slept soundly, knowing that the next day they would be together again, building a future based on honesty, hard work, and unconditional love. Michael's last thought before falling asleep was a simple but profound realization. He had finally found what he'd been searching for all his life. Not wealth, not status, not social recognition. He had found a real family. The end. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave a sincere comment below. Do you think Michael made the right decision? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories.